Welcome to Wellywood Wargaming, where the Grimdark never sleeps. Crack open a bottle of Wild Snake and spark up a low stick as we take a journey down Underhive.
Howdy Hive scum, do you like Necromunda and do you like Kill Team? Well, why don't we try and combine the best of both worlds? As you'll know if you've watched any of my videos before, most of my content focuses on Necromunda. I'm extremely passionate about the game of Necromunda and have been since 1995. It's deep, campaign-driven, narrative focus. The lore is really, really rich and awesome, and I've just loved all things Necromunda since day one. Kill Team, I have played a little bit of, and I have to say, I find it quite shallow compared to a game like Necromunda. Of course, they are two completely different entities, and I can totally see the appeal for Kill Team. Now, what I will say about Kill Team, even though I'm not particularly a huge fan of the rules myself, is that the miniatures, the bespoke box sets you can get for Kill Team are magnificent in my opinion. You get so much style and character in these. It's just a shame that they don't actually translate into the Kill Team game too much. However, what if you love the miniatures for Kill Team and you want to bring them into Necromunda? Well, I have a solution for you. What we're going to do here in this episode is go through each and every bespoke Kill Team box and see if we can think about rules and mechanics to bring them into Necromunda so that you can use your Kill Team miniatures in games of Necromunda, be it one-off skirmish games or campaigns as well. So what we're going to do here is go and look at the Games Workshop website. Now, before I do that though, please do like, share, subscribe, and of course check out the Patreon if you'd like to support me further. So let's start off with one of my favorite and most recent Kill Team dedicated boxes here. We have the Ecclesiarchy Kill Team, the Sanctifiers here. When these came out, I was absolutely thrilled to see these. I haven't actually got them yet, but I'm definitely going to get them at some point. These guys, it was pretty clear to me as soon as I saw them, based on the sort of fanatical zealotry and ecclesiarchy sort of aesthetic that we've got going here, you could totally use this in Necromunda. These are very, very grimdark indeed, and I would say that these are quite easily proxies for a Redemptionist or Corridor gang as is. Of course, you'd need to switch out some of the weapons and stuff to include them in Necromunda, but generally, with a few Kitbashes here and there, you could make them a Corridor or Redemptionist gang. That's a fairly clear one to do. However, with these miniatures, you could also go down the route of an Outcast gang, perhaps using a sort of guild delegation as the sort of main sort of body of your Outcast gang, and then give them a Corridor background to get some more sort of Corridor flame-based weapons in here. You've got an Eviscerator in here, by the way, and you've got a bunch of different weapons and whatnot that do fit in with Corridor and Redemptionists as well. Some flamers, some hand flamers, and all sorts of other cool sorts of gubbins. So this one was fairly clear to me, a very easy one here. You could, of course, go down the route of Ventors as well to make them slightly more elite than your sort of Corridor or Redemptionist background. And of course, you can actually give your Ventors the sort of house patronage of Corridor as well, giving them access to a Corridor leader's equipment kit. Most of the stuff that these guys are armed with is in here. You need to make a few sort of adjustments, I suppose, but I particularly love the sort of assassin looking dude with the two swords. I'm not sure how you'd run that, but again, if you did it as Ventors and you had a slightly more elite sort of gang in Necromunda, you could totally do that too. So with the Sanctifiers, I would say the obvious choice is Corridor Redemptionists, but you could, of course, do Outcasts and Ventors using those house patronages from Corridor as well for both of those gangs, and perhaps even a delegation for the Outcasts as well. Next up, and in the same box set, we have the Gormongers. These ones are really interesting. I'm personally not a huge fan of these models, but I know many, many people are. I do like Khornate stuff in general, and these are a kind of twisted Khorn cultist sort of box set that you've got here. Now, you only get 8 fighters in the box, and you could use these as several different things. Now, hear me out. The first option I would say here is probably Beastmen Ventors. I know they aren't Beastmen, but I think with the chain weapons and the sort of frenzied vibe of them and the special rules around Beastmen Ventors, these could certainly be an elite crew of Beastman Ventors, give them all friends on and whatnot. You could, of course, go down just the Chaos Hellet route and give them all chainswords and stuff as well. That's an option, but I would say that Chaos Hellets are very much more of a hoardy gang, and the stats aren't particularly good either. So if you want a real close combat focus, you could of course go for corpse grinders as well, and that would be a fairly obvious one there as well. Swapping out the heavy chain cleavers for, you know, chain swords and whatnot, should your arbitrator allow it. The other option as well with these guys is perhaps to do a Gene Smith Goliath gang, as they do get access to lots of chain weapons as well, and you could Gene Smith them and tailor them in a way that kind of fits a slightly more average human sort of body. You could reduce the toughness, maybe keep the strength high, but keep them a sort of close combat focused gang as well. So the options for the Gormongers are, you've got quite a few in here really. Corpse grinders, Goliaths of course, and Hellets, and of course Ventors as well. Those are the sort of main options I would go for with the Gormongers, but again, very easy to slot these into Necromunda if you ask me. And if you like these models, then totally go and get a box and just stick them in Necromunda. Right, so the next one is a bit of a bone of contention. I'm not really a fan of Orcs myself in 40k. I find them the weakest part of the lore personally. I've never really been a fan even since I was a kid, but I totally appreciate that many people are. And what we have here is the Kill Team Wrecker Crew, which came with the Ratlings, which we're going to talk about in a minute. This was in a separate Kill Team box before the one I just talked about. Now, these guys are, of course, Orcs, Space Orcs, and there is actually a lore reason to include Orcs in Necromunda. There are indeed Orcs living on Necromunda, apparently in the Skull, which is an area of Necromunda on the map that we haven't actually explored yet in the game. So you totally could include Orcs, because there are apparently some Orcs on Necromunda currently in the lore. Now, how you'd integrate Orcs into Necromunda is a sort of tricky one, I would say. Now, there are some options here that we've already discussed. I would consider Gene Smithed Goliaths, because what you can do here is mess around with the stats and sort of bring them into line with 40k Orc stats a little bit more. And I would say they are probably stat-wise closest to Goliath anyway, being quite strong and tough and all that as well. However, the weapons here are the main problem. You have lots of big sort of demolition weapons on these guys, and it looks really cool. You've also got some squigs here as well, which could be sort of proxied as pets, perhaps giant rats, things like that as well. So there are options here. Goliaths kind of come to me as the sort of first choice. You could use Orcs perhaps as well. But I think you're probably going to have to do some weapon snips to get rid of some of the sort of weird esoteric weapons that we've got here. We have a hammer with a rocket head on it. I'm not sure what that could be. It could be an arc hammer perhaps. But there certainly are ways that you could do this. And I'd say that Ventors, Goliaths, and maybe Orcs would be the sort of route that you'd go down here. However, I would say that minimal conversion would be needed on these guys just to give them some weapons that actually exist in Necromunda instead of the giant sort of toffee hammers and stuff that they're carrying. That said, there is a rocket launcher in here. You could get a missile launcher for your Ventors or for your Goliaths, I believe, as it's on the house list. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, there certainly are some options for Orcs, so do not fear. If you want to include Orcs in your campaigns, just make sure that the rest of your players in your campaigns are keen and okay with you doing Orcs in your campaigns. I certainly would be, as long as you can back up the lore and give them a cool, solid backstory as well. So there you go. That is the Wrecker Crew. All right, so the next one is easy and it's awesome. Thanks to Apocrypha Necromunda, we had a PDF on the new Venator rules for Necromunda. Now, you can go and download that from the Warhammer community website. I have done 2 actual gang guides for Venators as well, so go and check them out if you haven't. Ratlings are totally on the menu, and they are a legit gang to play in Necromunda now as well, using those new Venator rules. Now, you don't need to go anywhere else for this. You can just stick to the Venator rules. We have rules for Ratlings. We have Ratling Gangers, we have a Ratling Specialist, we have a Ratling Champion, and we have a Ratling Leader. So this box set, you can make a complete Ratling Venator list out of, and probably use all 10 models in here as well, and maybe even the little pooch as, I don't know, a pet rat or something as well. They all have las guns pretty much, and some other gubbins, and you could totally utilize most of what's on these models in Necromunda. There's nothing really weird and esoteric here. I think you might have some hot shots, and I think you might have some long lases in here as well. I'm actually building this kill team at the moment to play in a narrative sort of battle report that I'll be doing as well, so make sure you check that out in future too. But these Ratlings ooze character. They've got so much fun and just interesting stuff going on, as well as some little tripwires that you can use as objective markers and stuff too. But the kill team Ratlings are awesome, and yes, go crazy with that Venator list and just make them sneaky and shooty and snipey and incredibly fragile if they get up close and personal with some corpse grinders or something. So There you go, that's the Ratlings. I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear me say this, but I'm going to say the word Ventors a lot in this video, so maybe take a drink every time I say Venator or Ventors. This one is the Felgor Ravagers. This is a dedicated Beastman kill team, and again, just like the Ratlings, we have full rules for Beastman Ventors in Necromunda, and they are really awesome. We have gangers, specialists, champions, and leaders. They're flipping awesome. They've got special rules which are just excellent. Every time they take a wound, or I think a flesh wound, they gain +1 base attack. Awesome. And they're immune to the effects of friends on as well. So you can have a really close combat focused awesome Beastman list. Of course, if you don't want to use the Venator list, I would suggest you do because they're awesome. You could also use these as maybe Corpse Grinders or Goliaths or something like that, or Goliaths like I used to with my old Beastman list as well. But these are ready-made for Necromunda, and absolutely you should get a box and stick them in Necromunda and have some fun with some Beastman. We've then got two types of squat kill teams here. We've got the Halfkin Salvagers and the other one with the trench coats. These are Leagues of Votann kill teams. The first is the Halfkin Salvagers, should I say. These are slightly more high-tech looking than the others, and I'd say the less sort of Necromunda equipped in that sense. They come with lots of energy weapons and what looks to be some sort of layered flak or even light carapace armor as well. I would say that squat Venators would be the option for these guys, and that's pretty much the only option I'd go with. You could go with actual squat prospectors, but the equipment just does not fit what they've got. Squat prospectors have a lot more sort of DACA and sort of like solid rounds, whereas these guys have a lot more sort of energy weapons by the looks of it. But it's a really fun kill team. It's got lots of character again in here. And like I said, we have stats for squat Venators as well. We have a leader, we have a champion, and we have gangers too. And with access to the sort of high rarity weapons and whatnot, some of the Xenos weapons and some of the high energy weapons that you can use, you could totally stick these Halfkin Salvagers in the Underhive too, using those rules. For the other squat kill team, the Hernkin Jaegers, these are always hard to pronounce. These ones are even slightly more Necromunda equipped, I'd say. The sort of long trench coats look really, really cool, and these guys could easily look like a group of bounty hunters or, again, Venators. So I'd say some of the weapon options on these are actually slightly closer to Necromunda as well. We've got shotguns, combat shotguns, a bunch of power weapons in here too, even a hand crossbow, which is a weapon in Necromunda too, and I think a long las there as well. These guys totally do, I think, fit in Necromunda and would make a really good squat Venator sort of bounty hunter kill team as well. So definitely do give those a try as well. You could even mix and match with those two kill team box sets to create a really unique looking sort of squat Venator bounty hunter party as well. Next we have the kill team Exaction Squad. These are the Adeptus Arbitis or Arbites or Arbites or just Arbos, if whatever you want to call them. They are the sort of FBI of 40k. You've got the general sort of Palanite enforcers that we use in Necromunda. They are your sort of run-of-the-mill beat cops. These guys are the elite cops. So lots of options here as well. Of course, you could just flatly proxy them as either enforcers or bad zone enforcers. However, I would again go down the route of Venators and just give them that high rarity to the access to the equipment that they've got, light carapace armor and slightly better sort of weaponry, power weapons here as well. But these are a fantastic looking force. We have a doggo in there as well, and yeah, really, really good looking bunch of guys that totally would be seen on Necromunda. There is an Adeptus Arbitis sort of like unit stationed on Necromunda somewhere that probably do deal with occasional stuff down in the hives, but usually those jobs would go to the enforcers. These guys, I could totally see them doing something on a bigger level, and the models are just so gorgeous. So, you know, why not try them out as either enforcers or Venators, I would say. The next one is the Farstalker Kinband. This is a gang of Kroot, and again, even though Kroot are Xenos and they're aligned with Tau and stuff, I could totally see a Kroot sort of warband down in Necromunda doing some hunting and perhaps eating some fools as well. So the Kroot are brilliant models, by the way, and you get some really lovely character in this box set as well. But what would you use them as in Necromunda? I guess that is a sort of tricky one here. There aren't any sort of like stats that are deliberately sort of like in line with Kroot in terms of Ventors or anything, but you certainly could use the Venator rules and sort of give them the equipment that they've actually got here. Certainly the Kroot long rifle, which is available at fairly low rarity from the trading post as well. And it's a decent weapon as well, by the way, so that's an option. You could also use outcasts for this as well, and again get access to that Kroot long rifle. Otherwise, I could see myself maybe using Orcs, or again, like I mentioned earlier, some Genesmith Goliaths with a few alterations to the stats to bring them in line with a Kroot 40k sort of data sheet, I suppose. Those are some of the options that I would use for Kroot. Again, I'd like to know in the comments if anyone's used these in Necromunda, because I have seen some on Instagram in Necromunda sort of battlefields and stuff, so I'd be interested to know what people use them as. But I think those main options would be pretty much similar to the rest, really, in terms of Venators, Outcast perhaps, or again Genesmith Ogryns or something similar to that. Next, we have the Imperial Navy Breachers, a Navy Breacher kill team, which totally would be awesome and fits right into like the Eye of Selene or something like that as well. So again, totally does fit in Necromunda if you want to do some sort of like out of the planet, out of hive stuff with your campaigns. These guys are really awesome looking. They're very chunky. They've got nice looking armor. And honestly, the first sort of idea that comes to mind with these guys really is just enforcers. We've got the same sort of armor type, the sort of thickness of armor on these guys, layered flak armor, I think in this case. We've got similar weapons with shotguns and lots of close to mid-range shooty weapons as well. We've got sort of axes in here as well. So I think either Enforcers, Bad Zone Enforcers, or actually Orcs. You could go down the Orc route with these guys and just give your Orcs more armor, perhaps some undersuits and flak armor, things like that as well. So those are some options. Orcs, Enforcers, and again, I say this every single time, Venators as well, for a slightly more elite feel and slightly better equipment there as well. But I really, really love this kill team. It's got some really nice models in there, and you've got two little sort of like automata in there as well that you could use again as either pets or as sort of like objectives as well. So this is a really nice one and definitely could be used in Necromunda too. Next, we have fan favorite, the Death Corps of Krieg. What on earth would they be doing on Necromunda? I have no idea, but you never know. They might be on a training exercise or something, so it's totally doable. What you'd play them as, though, this, I suppose, is fairly ambiguous as well. We've got lots of las guns, of course, because they are Imperial Guardsmen, and we've got some interesting sort of weapon choices. The Sergeant has a power sword and stuff, but none of the weapons here are particularly rare in Necromunda, so they are available to a lot of gangs, which means that you could either run these as like Orcs, even Escher rules if you wanted to as well, but I would probably go down the route of either sort of Outcasts or Venators again, and sort of pick and choose from the rarity lists in terms of the equipment and stuff there as well. In terms of the stats, though, they are just Guardsmen. They don't have anything that stands out, I don't think, in 40k, other than being just human soldiers, so you totally could use them as most things in Necromunda, but honestly, I'd probably lean into the Outcasts feel and go for some custom sort of stats on my sort of leader and champion and stuff as well in terms of the sergeants and whatnot. So there you go, that's the Death Corps of Krieg. Tempestus Aquilons. These guys are elite Imperial sort of stormtroopers with jetpacks, and this one's fairly easy, right? We've got Orlok Wreckers. These are Orlok Wreckers, but a slightly more elite version of them. Now, your Orlok Wreckers can't actually have sort of basic weapons and stuff, so that is where it gets tricky, but with a few weapon snips, you could totally bring these in line with your Orlok Wreckers. You could, of course, do something slightly different with this, and again, I say Venators, you must be absolutely steamingly drunk by now, but you could do Venators, and instead of the Wrecker jump packs, you could give them grav shoots and maybe grapnel launchers. So a grav shoot and a grapnel launcher combined means that you can double move 12 inches up a building or something, and also not suffer the effects of falling, things like that. That would kind of work as a sort of proxy jump pack, I think. But the weapons, again, aren't particularly rare for Necromunda. We have las guns and hotshot las guns and stuff in this case, I think, as well. And again, lovely models, so totally can use them in Necromunda if you want. Likewise, the Vespid Stingwings, what we have here. Now I'm going to give you an interesting solution with the Stingwings. I really like these. Again, they're a Xenos kill team similar to the Kroot that we talked about earlier. And now the idea that I've had for these guys is similar to what we talked about just a second ago with the Tempestus Aquilons in giving them grav shoots and grapnel launchers. However, what I would do for the Stingwings actually, and what I did do, I had one Stingwing in my Outcast gang last campaign, and I went with the mutation skill tree, I suppose, from Apocrypha Necromunda. You can go and download that one from the Warhammer community website as well. One of the Apocrypha Necromundas has rules for Outcast mutants, and one of the sort of skills or mutations, should I say, is actually wing membranes, and that pretty much acts as a grav shoot. It means that you can just move over gaps and stuff as well, and it acts like a chicken would fly, I suppose, just a bit of floating, not actual full-on flying around, but it sort of ticks that box for me, I suppose. So that is one option. Outcasts, that I imagine the profile for these fighters would be similar to your sort of regular human or scummer. So that's definitely an option. I'm not sure what you do in terms of armor, whether these actually have any armor in Kill Team. I don't think they do because they look pretty naked to me. And the energy weapons that they carry might be a bit tricky. So again, a few weapon snips might be needed. But honestly, I'd go down the Outcast mutation route, or Orlok Wreckers again, or something else. I'm not really sure yet, but I think the Outcast mutations would be perfect for these guys. Now in Necromunda there are rules for Chaos Hellet gangs, and we don't have any actual official Necromunda line models for those Chaos Helots. So what they did is they brought them out and just put the Kill Team logo on them, but they are actually Necromunda models. We have the Dark Commune, that's your leadership group. We have the Chaos Cultists, which are your gangers, and we also have all the Spawn and what are they called? Accursed Cultists here as well, which you could use as Spawn, or some of your folks with mutations as well. Absolutely gorgeous miniatures, and they are just ready-made for your Chaos Helots, or even a Chaos Corrupted House gang as well, like a Chaos Corrupted Escher gang, or a Chaos Corrupted Goliath gang, or Orlok, whatever, you name it, you can do it with these three kits. Now, you don't even need all three kits. You could probably skip the Cultists, the Accursed Cultists, and the Dark Commune, but the Chaos Cultist box set, you can get the shooty ones from Blackstone Fortress that have auto guns, and you can combine those with the sort of close combat ones that you get here in a box of 10. Perfect, ready-made Chaos Helots. Next up, we have the Sisters Novitiates. These are the sort of aspirants to the Adeptus Sororitas, and they are nuns with guns. They're flipping awesome. I can totally imagine these coming down into Necromunda to do some training as well. There is an Adeptus Sororitas sort of place or temple, should I say, on Necromunda, quite a large presence actually. So I can totally see these guys down in Necromunda in the Underhive, and I've actually used this kill team as a Outcast Cawdor background gang. That can totally be done. Again, all the weapons in this kill team are completely legit for Cawdor. So you've got, you've got your chain swords in there, you've got sort of auto pistols and auto guns, you've even got some whips and stuff in there as well. You could use them as shock whips. So the options are Escher, of course, that's a good idea, not just because they're female, but I feel like some of the whips, some of the close combat weapons would be quite in line with Escher, as well as the stats, but also Cawdor, because you could use the Articles of Faith, and I think that goes very well and ties into the 40k Adeptus Sororitas as well. So Cawdor Redemptionists, Outcast with a Cawdor background, or even Escher for the Kill Team Sisters Novitiates. Next, we have the absolute best box set, and I honestly, if you haven't got this box set, you're absolutely nuts, because it's just a Kitbasher's dream come true. Yes, it's very expensive. Yes, it only has 7 or 8 miniatures in it, but the Inquisitorial Agents, if you like 40k, if you like Grimdark, this box set is for you. You can build each of the members of this kill team in a different way. So you end up with 2 different versions of everything pretty much. So you can mix and match as much as you like. So you could buy 2 boxes of these and have everything, or you could just buy 1 box and just choose your sort of preference. But I'm saying it again here, Ventors. For me, it's just obviously Ventors. The way that you can just do pretty much anything with Ventors means that you can utilize this box perfectly, pretty much. You also have a big sort of lugger servitor that you could use as your Orlok lugger, but you could also use it as, I don't know, an Oghren or something similar to that effect as well, or even like an Oghren Venator champion with a heavy weapon there as well, heavy bolter, I think he comes with as well. So options there for Ventors, absolutely. There are some other options that I'd explore, but I think Ventors gives them that elite feel and gives you access to all the equipment they're going to need. We're only halfway through this, and you must be very, very drunk by now, because I'm going to say Ventors again. And this one's the Cassakin. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. These are elite sort of stormtroopers again, this time without jump packs. They have sort of high damage dealing energy weapons and special weapons in here. Again, though, I would go Ventors with this one. Give them some layered flak or perhaps light carapace armor, and these guys are pretty much good to go. I think you have a plasma gun in here, some hotshot las guns, things like that. They're definitely an elite unit, so I would say low model count is usually going to lean into Ventors again, and just access to sort of all of the weapons that you've got in this box here is ready-made for Ventors. So I'm not really going to mention anything else. You could do Orcs maybe, but again, you haven't really got the right types of energy weapons for Orcs in their house list either. So I'm sure there are some other options, and you could maybe do Enforcers or something as well, but I think the Cassakin are ready-made for Ventors too. Next up, we've got the Kill Team Brood Brothers. This is a Imperial sort of regiment of Genestealer neophytes, I suppose. And these could be combined with your regular sort of 40k neophytes that we can use in Necromunda as well. Now, this is an obvious one, I suppose. You could either use them as Genestealer Cult, you could use them as a Genestealer Cult Corrupted House Gang, but you could also use them, of course, as Malstrain Scum as well. I would say, however, these do have a slightly more elite feel. So for me, I'd probably go down the route of one of the house gangs with a Genestealer Corruption, actually, just to make them slightly better and more in line with some of the equipment that they've got. We've got power swords and stuff in here, and some other sort of special weapons and interesting stuff in here that you could also utilize. So again, Ventors are an option like they are with everything. But I would say a Genestealer Corrupted, maybe Orlok or Escher gang here would be quite good, or even Delac, actually, because, Genestealer Cult, they're sneaky, so are Delac, they're both bald. So there's some similarity there. You could use the Sergeant as perhaps a Nactgal with the Phase Sword, something like that. And that's the first time I've actually said Delac as well. So maybe drink to that too. Next, we have the Traitor Guard, and this is an awesome, awesome kill team as well. Such good value in this box. The kill team Blooded is fantastic. These guys come with an Ogryn, a mutated Ogryn, and I think this is the only official model you get for the Brute that you can actually use in Necromunda, the mutated Ogryn. Fantastic looking Ogryn. We get a Commissar with a Power Fist and stuff, which is slightly harder to use generally, but I actually used this kill team as a Tzeentch Corrupted Orlok gang and just swapped out some of the sort of basic weapons. In my campaigns, we have access to common weapons from the start as well as your house list, so I switched out the auto guns, the shotguns for las guns, and made an Orlok list out of this with fairly minor sort of changes and stuff as well. You could use Escher, you could use Delac, you could use any of the sort of house gangs in this, you could use Enforcers as well, and of course you could use Ventors too. Now, a slightly better option that we talked about with the Orcs earlier, if you did want to use Orc kill teams in Necromunda, then the Commandos are probably a better option. Not only do you get more models in the box, I think 10 or 11 models in the box here, they are just slightly better fit for Necromunda in terms of the weapons and stuff that you get here, and I would say kind of directly fit into Necromunda a bit easier. Now, you could again use these as sort of Gene Smith Goliaths, or even just Goliaths actually, and swap out some of the weapons, or you could go down the Venator route with these guys as well, but I just feel like Orcs shouldn't be that elite. Of course, Commandos are the elite Orcs, but they're not quite as elite as sort of human elites, I suppose. So, I don't know. There are options here, but I think, honestly, I would lean into the Goliath sort of idea with these guys, because I think stats-wise, that's as close as you're going to get, really. Also, talking about some kill teams from way back, we had the Eleusidian, I believe you say it, Star Striders, which are a sort of rogue trader kill team, which are really, really fantastic as well. Loads of character in there if you can still get hold of it. We have an assassin in there too, which I've used as a Death Maiden, I think, and an outcast leader at some point. Really, really good looking kill team with some sort of militia men in there as well, some navy guys, with lots of las guns, things like that as well. That could be used as sort of outcasts, again, Venators, or even Orlok or Escher or something similar as well. And we also have the Gellerpox as well. Now, that would be quite tricky. I think you could do a Venator Ogryn for the big three, and then something else for the other little guys, or a Nurgle Corrupted gang of some sort. But I think you need an arbitrator to help you out with that one, because the Gellerpox are a bunch of big guys and a lot of little guys, and there aren't really any gangs like that. So that's a really tricky one. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about the Gellerpox and how you could use those in Necromunda. Honestly, I would say just use them as NPCs because they are fantastic miniatures, and the Gellerpox in the Underhive would be a terrifying thought. Lastly, we have the 2 new kill teams that are available in the box that has yet to be released. We have the Admeck Servitor Battleclade, which is a fantastic box of servitors. We don't actually have any sort of updated servitor models as of yet, so these are really nice to have. Of course, we get one in the other sort of Inquisitorial Retinue box, but only one. There isn't like a 40k sort of box of servitors, so this is really the closest you're going to get. Servitors are such a staple in Grimdark 40k universe in general, and it's a shame that we haven't seen them up till now, but now you can get a box of, I believe, 9 in this, and we've got some really, really nice looking sculpts in here. In terms of how we might use them in Necromunda, of course, this is a bit of a tricky one. Now, my heart says that I want to do something with Van Saar, whether it is a Venator, Van Saar, background list perhaps, but servitors, I suppose, are slow and dumb and tough. But they have lots of shooty weapons. You've got 2 in here with heavy weapons. One has a heavy bolter. So again, sort of makes me think that Venators would be a good sort of shout because we have access to quite a lot of weaponry. But we've got some sort of close combat fighters in here as well. I'm really not sure how to do this. You could do the 2 big guys as perhaps Venator Ogryns with heavy weapons, which is absolutely doable, by the way. It's the only way you can get Ogryns with shooting weapons is in a Venator list. But you could do regular Van Saar and sort of, somehow lobotomize them, I suppose. Or even Gene Smith, your Goliaths as well, to sort of try and match the stats as closely as possible as you can to their 40k datasheet. But it's a tricky one, and there are a few sort of options in how you might build them, but I'm not really sure the best way to go. Another sort of way that you could do it is, of course, squats as well. I wouldn't go with squat prospectors because the weapons don't really match, but the reason why I'm saying squats is because they're slow and tough with decent sort of mental stats and okay shooting. So that's an option if you want to do squat Venators maybe for these as well. But again, I'd really like to know what your thoughts are around this Servitor Battleclade and how you might use them in Necromunda. They certainly fit the lore and the aesthetic, but how would we actually use them in our games of Necromunda? Of course, the other half of this box is Tyrannids, and I have to say, I don't think these Tyrannids really fit into the Necromunda setting. If you've got Tyrannids on Necromunda, it's too late by that point anyway. However, you could use them as Greeblies, perhaps alternative sort of proxies for Malstrain, Gene Stealers, and other sort of Warp Horrors and things like that. But really, I think the Battleclade is the main one to use here. In terms of the rest of the bespoke kill teams, they are either Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Tyrannids, or Eldar. And honestly, and actually some Necrons as well, and Tau. Those are the ones that I would tend to avoid, although I do like the miniatures and you could use them in Necromunda. I can't think off the top of my head for a solution for any Space Marines. Astartes do not belong in the Hive. One Astartes would take out 100 gangers very easily. So there aren't really stats that line up with Astartes, I would say. It wouldn't make sense to me. It works in Kill Team because you have different sort of mechanics and stuff, but in Necromunda, I would avoid Astartes at all costs generally. I also think at that point, as soon as you start including Astartes, arguably Orcs too, Eldar and other Xenos species, suddenly it's not Necromunda and it becomes a different thing entirely. So I would generally personally avoid any of the sort of big Xenos 40k races, and possibly even Orcs too, although there is a presence of them on Necromunda. Generally, finding a way to put Eldar into Necromunda would be very tricky as well, mainly because the weapons are all pretty esoteric and you don't get access to things other than maybe a sling gun that are sort of Eldar weapons, I suppose. So I hope this video was insightful for you, particularly for the newer players into Necromunda. If you've played loads of Kill Team and you want to sort of entry point, I suppose, into Necromunda, you can use your Kill Teams in Necromunda. No one's telling you not to. In fact, I'm saying go for it. There's certainly ways to do it, and that should give you some ideas on how you might implement them in your games of Necromunda, should your arbitrator be okay with it. I think rule of cool, every model is a Necromunda model. Yeah, just go for it. These are fantastic models and they deserve to be on the table and painted up in all their glory and used in the superior game system. So, you've heard it here first. use your kill team in Necromunda and have the best of both worlds. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please do like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back with another one real soon. Peace out.